Right.
Picture a woman, right, just entirely alone, huddled miserably on this freezing ice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's wrapped in like nothing but a thin, totally useless nightgown.
Yeah.
It is a really bone-chilling image.
Absolutely.
But the real terror, isn't the physical cold. It's the realization that this woman isn't stranded in some remote, unforgiving wilderness. She is, she's actually trapped in her own life, psychologically frozen by the people who share her address.
Right. And I mean, that visual captures a very specific modern anxiety because, we are wired to view our homes as absolute sanctuaries.
Exactly.
When the threat originates from inside that perimeter, when the danger is actually sharing your walls or your ceiling or your communal hallway, it creates this profound, just paralyzing kind of despair.
Because you can't escape it.
Right. You can lock your front door against the outside world, but you can't lock it against the building itself.
So true. And today, we are immersing ourselves in the world of Mark Edwards' psychological thriller, The Magpies, for this deep dive.
It's a fantastic source material for this.
It really is. We are exploring a concept that hits, I think, uncomfortably close to home for anyone listening who has ever, signed a lease or a mortgage.
Oh, definitely.
We're looking at how the ultimate dream of buying your first home can silently, almost invisibly, just become an absolute psychological nightmare. We are basically looking at the architecture of domestic warfare.
And the horror here relies entirely on the mundane. I mean, we aren't dealing with haunted mansions or like isolated cabins in the woods.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a converted Victorian house with ground floor flats in London. The terror is weaponized proximity.
Weaponized proximity. I like that. Edwards gives us this prologue that drops us right into the aftermath of that weaponization.
Yeah, right at the end of their rope.
Yaxley. We meet an unnamed woman and her partner, David. They are frantically packing boxes, fleeing a flat that they once proudly labeled paradise in a photo album.
It's so sad.
She actually takes a heavy pen and forcefully scratches out the word paradise, violently writing hell over it.
Just completely defacing it.
Right. But she isn't just packing her things. She is scrubbing the walls until her muscles literally scream, vacuuming every single speck of dust. She is desperate to leave absolutely zero trace of her existence in that space.
What's fascinating here is the psychology behind that compulsion to clean. I mean, scrubbing those walls isn't about getting their security deposit back.
Right, obviously not.
No, it is a trauma response. When your environment has been used to systematically dismantle your sanity, erasing your physical footprint is a desperate attempt to reclaim some agency.
Like trying to take back control.
Exactly. It's a way of saying, you didn't break me here because I was never here.
Wow. And she is clearly broken. I mean, she's plagued by phantom voices, babbling men and women talking all through the night that she has to drown out with slow orchestral music.
Which is terrifying.
It is. She suffers from visceral, violent dreams where she's like marching down a hallway carrying a gun or a large knife, desperate to kill the architects of her misery.
Yeah, and the descent from hope to that level of primal, cornered animal trauma is really the core of this analysis, because a psychological prison, well, it always starts as a blank slate of optimism.
Always.
That flat, before it became hell, was bathed in watery sunlight. It was literally a canvas for a young couple's future.
So let's look at that couple, Jamie and Kirsty. Jamie is an IT tech, and Kirsty is a pediatric nurse.
Very normal, relatable people.
Exactly. They are hardworking, entirely normal people who have just scored the impossible. A beautiful, character-filled ground floor flat on Mount Pleasant Street in London for significantly under market value.
The holy grail of real estate.
Right. The estate agent claims the owner needs a quick sale. They even offer under the asking price and actually get it. They are ecstatic, popping champagne in the bath.
And we see this all the time in urban real estate. I mean, the sunk cost fallacy begins before the ink is even dry.
Oh, totally.
When you secure a supposed miracle deal in a brutal housing market, the euphoria completely overrides your primal instinct for danger.
You just ignore the warnings.
Right. Your financial and emotional identity becomes so heavily invested in this victory that you will systematically ignore blinding red flags just to protect the narrative that you won.
Which they definitely do. So they throw a massive flat-warming party to christen the space. Jamie's dressed in a full red devil costume just for a laugh.
That's you do.
Right. The music is playing. Everything is perfect. And then a fire engine pulls up outside with its sirens blaring.
It completely shatters the mood.
Fully geared up firefighters storm the property expecting a massive blaze. But there is no fire. It's a hoax call. Someone dialed 999 and gave their exact address.
And the firefighters are furious, right? Interrogating Jamie, who is just standing there in a velvet devil costume, completely bewildered.
Okay, let's untack this. If you look at this first hoax and the ones that immediately follow, like a fake pizza delivery they didn't order, a bizarre Amazon package containing a history of Satanism delivered in Jamie's name to a neighbor, it is exactly like digital malware probing a firewall.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. These are small, localized glitches. The perpetrator is pinging the system to see how Jamie and Kirsty react. They are scanning for open ports.
I mean, the malware analogy is spot on because the payload isn't the pizza or the fire truck. The payload is the hypervigilance.
Right, making them paranoid.
Exactly. When you are in your home, your nervous system relies on predictability. These hoaxes strip that predictability away. The perpetrator is injecting ambient dread into the environment.
Ambient dread.
Yeah, like when Jamie steps outside after sending the pizza guy away, the street is completely quiet, but he gets goosebumps. He feels eyes on him.
Ugh, creepy.
The invasion has already succeeded and not a single lock was picked.
So who is running this malware? Who is watching them? Let's meet the suspects in this converted 4-flat Victorian house.
Let's do it.
Up on the top floor, we have Brian and Linda. Brian is a children's horror writer. He writes the Scarlet Moon series, and his study is painted completely black.
Of course it is.
Right. Black blinds, black fisherman's netting on the ceiling, gargoyles everywhere. Then on the first floor, right above Jamie and Kirsty, is Mary. She's a very hippie-ish herbalist.
And she took in that package, right?
Yes, her flat smells heavily of patchouli oil. She's a big white cat named Lennon, and she is the one who took in that Satanism book.
The author presents us with two incredibly convenient scapegoats here. Brian fits the gothic, eccentric trope perfectly, and Mary is the unconventional loner.
Very convenient.
They're designed to draw the reader's suspicion and Jamie's suspicion.
Right, they're the classic creepy neighbors. But I look at the garden flat, the basement, and I see something much darker. Chris and Lucy Newton.
The seemingly perfect couple.
Exactly. Chris is this heavily muscled, intimidating guy who works for Scion Software. Lucy works as a care assistant in a nursing home. On paper, they're the most normal people in the building.
They even wear matching corporate t-shirts.
Yes. But I am telling you, the red flags they display are blinding.
Well, the banality of evil often hides behind a well-manicured lawn. What specific behaviors are you looking at?
For starters, Chris casually mentions he has the communal keys and offers to fix Jamie's door. That is a massive boundary violation disguised as a neighborly favor.
Oh, 100%.
On Jamie and Kirsty's very first night, Chris comes up to demand they turn down their quietly playing acoustic music, claiming Lucy is ill.
Testing the waters.
Right. And later, Jamie catches Chris secretly watering his pristine lawn in the middle of the night during a strict citywide hosepipe ban. The rules just do not apply to Chris.
He's above the law in his own mind.
Exactly. And then there's Lucy's face. Jamie bumps into her while moving furniture, and she glares at him with a terrifying, Gorgon-like grimace of pure hatred.
Oh, that part's chilling.
But then instantly transforms it into a sweet beatific smile.
That facial transformation is crucial. A mask slipping for a fraction of a second reveals a deeply practiced duality. But the real psychological manipulation happens when Jamie and Kirsty invite Chris and Lucy up for dinner.
Oh man, that dinner party is agonizing.
It really is.
Lucy drinks heavily and drops a bombshell. Out of nowhere, she calls Mary, the herbalist upstairs, a witch. And not in a quirky way.
No, with pure malice.
Right. She says with pure venom, suggesting Mary receives mail from pagan societies and pulls the legs off spiders in black magic rituals. She also casually drops that the previous tenants in Jamie and Kirsty's flat were noisy drug dealers who made the Newtons' lives an absolute misery.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Lucy's behavior at that dinner table is textbook triangulation and isolation.
How so?
Her extreme reaction to Mary isn't a neighborly dispute, it's a preemptive strike. By painting Mary as a sinister, dangerous figure and by establishing themselves as the long-suffering victims of the previous tenants, Lucy is controlling the narrative.
Oh, I see.
She is actively cutting Jamie and Kirsty off from the rest of the building, making them reliant solely on the Newtons for social reality.
Wow. And it works, because the tension escalates from weird dinner vibes to pure physical revulsion. Jamie steps out of his front door one morning and finds a heavy, dead rat with a long tail placed right on their doormat.
This is a significant escalation from a fake pizza delivery.
Definitely.
It is a highly aggressive physical invasion of their immediate boundary.
And here is where I think Jamie makes a deeply human but catastrophic error. He hides it.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
He scoops the rat into a plastic bag and throws it in the bin without telling Kirsty. Because, Kirsty has a severe paralyzing phobia of rats, and she is currently bedridden with a nasty flu. He is just trying to protect her.
I have to stop you there because framing it as a human error underplays how perfectly this serves the abuser.
Really?
Yes. That instinct to protect is exactly what the perpetrator is weaponizing. By keeping that secret, Jamie introduces a wedge into his relationship.
Oh, wow.
He is isolating himself to carry the psychological burden alone. He is doing the abuser's work for them.
But wait, you're saying Jamie is at fault for shielding his sick, phobic partner from a dead animal? That seems incredibly harsh. What is he supposed to do, just throw the rat on her bed?
I am analyzing the mechanics of the abuse, not assigning moral blame. Gaslighting requires a fractured reality. The moment Jamie holds a secret piece of reality that Kirsty doesn't have, their foundation cracks.
I guess that makes sense.
The abuser didn't put that wedge there, Jamie did, out of love. That is the insidious genius of this kind of warfare. It uses her best instincts against us. And we know it's a calculated campaign because the next morning, there's another dead rat in the exact same spot.
The relentless repetition is terrifying. But the true horror, like the moment that gave me genuine chills, happens while Kirsty is stuck on the sofa with her flu.
Oh, the book.
Yes. She picks up one of Brian's children's horror books, The Creature in the Cradle, which Jamie brought down after helping Brian with his computer. She reads a passage out loud.
And the wording is incredibly specific.
It perfectly describes a tired mother finding a dead rat by her milk bottles. And the text describes the rat verbatim as big as a puppy, one eye open.
A perfect, terrifying match to the secret Jamie has been keeping.
Imagine the absolute terror of fiction bleeding into your reality like that. Like, I have to ask you, is this the universe playing a cruel, astronomical joke? Or is someone in that building actively reading Brian's books and using them as a literal instruction manual for psychological torture?
It's the latter, without a doubt. And it demonstrates the profound architecture of gaslighting.
Right.
The perpetrator is utilizing elements that seem utterly absurd on purpose. Imagine Jamie and Kirsty going to the police. Officer, our neighbor is leaving dead rats on our doormat, to perfectly mimic chapter 4 of a children's book written by the eccentric man on the top floor.
It would sound completely insane.
Exactly. They would sound completely unhinged. The police wouldn't investigate a crime. They would recommend psychiatric help.
You're entirely right. The goal isn't just to scare them. The goal is to make them utterly unreliable narrators of their own lives.
Absolutely.
And to add another layer of paranoia, earlier that same Sunday, Jamie looks out his back window and spots Lucy in the garden. She is holding Mary's cat, Lennon, the same cat Mary has been frantically searching for because he's been missing for days.
Which is so messed up.
Jamie watches Lucy gently stroke the cat, carry it inside her flat, and deliberately shut the door.
The perpetrators are orchestrating the entire environment. They are manipulating the mail, the wildlife, the neighbors' pets, and even the literature within the house.
That's all connected.
They are the directors of a play Jamie and Kirsty don't even realize they've been cast in.
The tension builds to a boiling point. But the moment the veil completely drops, where psychological warfare turns into undeniable, kinetic violence happens far away from Mount Pleasant Street. Chris invites Jamie, Kirsty, and their best friends, Paul and Heather, to go-karting at a track down in Kent.
A seemingly friendly, neighborly outing. A peace offering, perhaps, to mask the escalating tension at the flats.
On the surface, sure. But the moment they arrive, Chris establishes physical dominance. He refuses to race on the beginner track with the rest of the group, insisting on the advanced track where the big boys race.
Typical Chris.
But Jamie's best friend, Paul, decides he wants to try the advanced track too. And Paul proves to be an absolute natural. He is flying around the track, maneuvering beautifully, and he completely destroys Chris's lap times. He beats him by a significant margin.
And for a man like Chris, whose entire identity is constructed around physical superiority, intimidation, and control, that isn't just a loss.
No.
It is a catastrophic narcissistic injury. It happens publicly in front of the people he is trying to dominate back at the flats.
Right, and the retaliation is instantaneous and brutal. Paul crosses the finish line, pulls into the pit area, takes off his helmet, and unbuckles his seatbelt. He is sitting in the cart grinning.
Totally unaware.
Then Chris approaches the finish line. There was another driver right on Chris's tail, bombing down the track at top speed. As Chris hits the finish line, He abruptly, inexplicably slams on his brakes.
He brake checks a speeding driver at the absolute worst possible moment.
The driver behind him has zero time to react. He swerves violently into the pit area to avoid hitting Chris and slams directly into the back of Paul's stationary go-kart.
It's just horrific.
The impact is so severe it causes the fuel tank to rupture and explode. A massive ball of flame erupts, throwing Paul violently from the vehicle. He suffers catastrophic head trauma.
Wow.
Yeah, he is rushed to the hospital in Bromley and falls into a deep coma. He's hooked up to beeping monitors, his life hanging by a thread.
And the track attendant calls it a tragic accident, a terrible misjudgment on the track.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I absolutely reject the accident theory. And looking at the mechanics of the event, you have to as well.
Oh, I do.
Chris slowing down wasn't a flinch or a mistake. It was a calculated split-second weaponization of physics. It was a sociopathic punishment for Paul daring to puncture his ego.
The psychological aftermath definitively proves your point. If this were a genuine accident caused by a momentary lapse in judgment, Chris would be racked with guilt.
Of course.
He would be lingering at the hospital, constantly checking on Paul's condition, desperately trying to apologize to Jamie and Heather.
But he doesn't do any of that. Chris and Lucy never visit the hospital. They never even make a phone call.
Total silence.
Instead, we see the ultimate mask-off moment. 3 days later, Jamie comes home, utterly exhausted, hollowed out by grief, terrified his best friend is going to die. Chris approaches him outside the flats.
And what does he say?
He doesn't ask about Paul. He doesn't offer condolences. He casually asks Jamie if he wants his windows cleaned because they look, quote, grubby.
This raises an important question about the profound detachment of the sociopathic mind. That comment about the window cleaning is the ultimate display of invulnerability.
How so?
Chris is looking Jamie in the eye and communicating a horrifying truth. I caused immense, unimaginable devastation in your life, and it means absolutely nothing to me.
God, that's dark.
Your profound tragedy, your dying best friend, is less significant to me than the smudges on your glass.
It is a breathtaking display of cruelty, and it perfectly encapsulates the journey from the paradise they thought they bought to the hell the unnamed woman was scrubbing in our prologue.
The progression is flawless.
It started with minor, deniable hoaxes, the fake pizza, the fire engine. It evolved into targeted psychological isolation, dead animals on the doorstep, and gaslighting that made reality feel insane.
And when the psychological control was challenged, it instantly escalated to near-fatal violence.
Exactly. And yet, despite being trapped in this domestic war zone, human resilience is a stubborn thing. Life, incredibly, attempts to go on. After weeks of suffocating grief over Paul, Jamie and Kirsty try to force some light back into their reality.
They made a huge decision.
They make the momentous, life-affirming decision to stop using birth control and start trying for a baby. They are attempting to plant a flag of hope in poisoned soil.
They want to reclaim their home.
Right. But the architecture of this abuse doesn't allow for hope. Because right after they make that beautiful decision, Jamie walks to the front door and finds a mysterious new envelope sitting on their doormat.
Oh no.
Another message from the dark. The malware is still running. The psychological prison is still locking its doors.
The true chilling reality of the magpies is that there is no geographical escape when the enemy lives inside the gates. You can't outrun someone who already possesses the keys to your sanctuary.
So what does this all mean? We spend countless hours and thousands of dollars when we buy a house inspecting the foundation. We hire surveyors to test the plumbing, check the roof for leaks, look for dry rot in the floorboards.
We demand structural integrity.
Exactly. But we never, ever inspect the psychology of the people who share our walls. What if the true horror of modern living isn't a ghost hiding in the attic or a masked killer in the woods, but the living, breathing sociopath smiling at you over the garden fence, holding the key to the communal front door?